Before death, there was the unmaking of a man, a ritual of absolute terror. There are phrases in history that we all know, but whose true meaning is lost to time. We hear the words hanged, drawn, and quartered, and we imagine a simple, brutal execution. We are wrong. This was never just an execution. It was a meticulously choreographed piece of political theater, a ritual of terror designed for one crime and one crime only, high treason, an act of rebellion against the king. From William Wallace in Scotland to Guy Fawkes and the Gunpowder Plotters, this punishment was reserved for those who dared to challenge the crown. Its goal was not just to kill the body, but to annihilate the soul and terrorize a nation into submission. And for the condemned, it began with the final chilling sound of the law's decree. The terror began with a single chilling sentence, a formal declaration that the traitor was to be erased from memory. And this is how it was done. The first stage was to be drawn. This didn't mean his bowels were drawn out, not yet. It meant he was to be drawn or dragged through the streets from the prison to the place of execution. This brutal journey was designed to break the body and spirit before the real punishment even began. He was tied to a wooden frame, or sometimes just a horse's tail, and dragged for miles over sharp cobblestones and filth. This was an act of ultimate public humiliation. It was a spectacle designed to turn the populace against the traitor. By the time he reached the gallows, he was already broken and bleeding. But this was only the prelude. The second act was about to begin. The second stage, to be hanged. But crucially, this was not a hanging to cause death. A normal hanging killed by breaking the neck or through slow strangulation. This was different. This was hanging for torture. The victim was hoisted up, strangling, fighting for air. Allowed to struggle on the rope, feeling life slip away until he was just moments from death, on the very edge of unconsciousness. At the very last moment, the executioner would cut the rope, sending him crashing to the platform below. He was alive, conscious. The goal was to ensure he was awake for what came next. The part of the sentence that wasn't spoken in the famous phrase, but was the heart of the entire ritual. And now, the executioner would turn to his other tools. The condemned man, now fully aware of his fate, was stripped naked and tied down. The third and most terrible act, the disembowelment, was about to begin. This was the true meaning of being drawn. While the victim was still alive, the executioner would make a long incision across his stomach. He would then proceed to remove his organs one by one. A fire was prepared not for warmth, but for one final hellish humiliation. In the ultimate act of psychological torture, the traitor's entrails and sometimes his genitals were thrown onto a fire right in front of his eyes. The symbolism was clear. He was being forced to watch his own vitality, be consumed by flames. It was a punishment beyond death. Only after this horrific display was the man finally granted the mercy of death by beheading. The final mercy, the executioner's axe. But even then, the state was not finished with him. The final part of the sentence was quartered. The headless body was hacked apart by the executioner and divided into 4 pieces. These were not meant for burial. They were trophies of the state's power, preserved by boiling them in tar or salt water. They were about to become a message that first had to be preserved for all to see. The 5 pieces of the traitor were then sent to the most prominent locations in the kingdom. The head was often reserved for a spike on London Bridge. It was the first thing you saw when you entered the capital. For months or even years, the dismembered bodies of traitors served as a constant rotting reminder of the price of rebellion. It was a warning written in flesh and bone. The practice was formally abolished only in 1870. It was the ultimate expression of power, a punishment so complete it sought not only to kill a man, but to erase his humanity and turn his very body into an instrument of state control. So the next time you hear the phrase hanged, drawn, and quartered, remember the truth. It was never a simple death. It was a journey through every circle of hell imaginable, while you were still alive to feel it.